Hey, stuffers! If you're finding this video, congratulations! You've officially scrolled past the part of the internet where things make sense. Alex here, and welcome back to Stuff with Alex. Forget everything you think you know about Atlantis. Forget the shiny Disney cartoons and the straight-up lies told by psychics. This is about one terrifying, irrefutable fact. Plato, the guy who invented the concept, claimed this island empire, this massive naval power, sank in a single day and night around 9600 BCE. Here's the gut punch. 9600 BCE! That's not ancient history, that's prehistory. We're talking thousands of years before the Egyptians built the pyramids, thousands of years before anyone invented writing, and centuries before humanity figured out that putting seeds in the dirt was a great way to avoid starving to death. The concept of an imperial navy capable of conquering North Africa and Europe simply did not exist. It's an anachronism so massive, it's like claiming your great-great-great-great-grandpappy invented the iPhone in the Jurassic period. Classicists unanimously agree Atlantis is a political allegory, a fictional morality play. But here is the real conundrum, the one that keeps the historical conspiracy gears turning. If Plato fabricated the whole thing, the ships, the palaces, the fancy constitution, why did he pick that one impossible specific date? Because 9600 BCE marks the exact moment the entire planet decided to unleash a biblical-scale catastrophic flood, accelerating global sea levels in an event known as Meltwater Pulse 1b. We have a fake story about a real apocalypse. What if the story is fiction, but the date itself was the one detail the ancient record keepers got perfectly right? We're investigating the great disconnect between history and hydrogeology. Stuffers, hit that like button if you're already spiraling into the mystery, or if you just spilled coffee trying to figure out what 9600 BCE looked like.
The story of Atlantis wasn't delivered on an engraved tablet from the heavens. It arrived in 4th century BCE Athens through a couple of long-winded philosophy dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Plato, our source, was not writing a historical treatise. He was engaging in a Socratic debate about how a state should properly behave. The narrative structure alone gives away the allegorical nature of the whole enterprise. The lineage of the story is itself a marvelous journey through ancient geopolitics and selective memory. Plato claims the story was told by Critias, who heard it from his grandfather, who in turn learned it from the great Athenian lawgiver Solon. Solon, in this account, traveled to Egypt, a place the Greeks revered for its ancient stability and meticulous record-keeping. In Sais, an Egyptian priest supposedly showed Solon records detailing an ancient conflict between a virtuous, idealized Athens and a corrupt naval superpower called Atlantis. The priest reportedly told Solon that the Athenian civilization of Solon's day was just young compared to the history the Egyptians held. The connection is strengthened by the fact that the patron goddess of Sais, Naif, happens to be the Egyptian counterpart of Athena, the patron goddess of Athens. This setup is the greatest ancient flex in history. Plato is essentially saying, we Athenians are so great, even the super-old Egyptians keep better records of our superior history than we do. There's even a suggestion that Solon may have mistranslated the date, counting hundreds of years instead of thousands, which would place the destruction closer to 1500 BCE, the Bronze Age, rather than the impossible 9600 BCE. Either way, the message to his audience was clear. The story had powerful, non-Greek validation, but the tale's delivery mechanism was prone to error and ego. Plato's goal was to construct a political parable, using Atlantis to illustrate the dangers of unchecked wealth and imperialism. Atlantis was described as a powerful island, protected by the sea god Poseidon, who installed his son Atlas as its first king, giving the island and the surrounding ocean its name. The island had an advanced culture and a written constitution that suspiciously resembled the utopian ideal Plato outlined in his Republic. However, the prosperity proved to be Atlantis's downfall. As the Atlanteans grew powerful, conquering parts of Africa as far as Egypt and Europe as far as Etruscan Italy, Turania, their ethics declined. They lost their divine virtue, descending into greed and hubris. This moral decay led to a divine punishment. The island was afflicted by earthquakes and massive floods, sinking entirely into the ocean in that famous single day and night. The ultimate destruction of Atlantis was designed to bear witness to the superiority of the virtuous, non-imperial state, an idealized fictional Athens. The whole story is a marvelous piece of literary contrasting with the massive land-based power of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, positioning Atlantis as the naval barbarian power that was justly defeated by the virtuous small state. The specific visual detail that lingers in the popular imagination, and which is crucial for modern searches, is the description of the capital city as a series of concentric rings of alternating land and water. This unique architectural blueprint, mentioned specifically by Plato, is what keeps amateur researchers glued to Google Earth, hoping to find a 9,000-year-old bullseye. If Atlantis is indeed a folk memory of a disaster that Plato retrofitted with political commentary, where might that memory originate? The most compelling candidate for the historical inspiration, if we ignore the Atlantic location and the 9600 BCE date for a moment, is the island of Santorini, formerly known as Thera. The theory linking Santorini and the Minoan civilization to Atlantis has persisted for decades, and for good reason. Santorini was the site of the massive Minoan Eruption around 1600 BCE. This cataclysmic event, not far from Crete, the center of the Bronze Age Minoan civilization, caused widespread tsunamis and climatic disruption, leading to the collapse of a powerful, advanced maritime culture. If Solon did misread the hieroglyphics by a factor of 10, changing 9,000 years to 900 years, the date of Atlantis's fall shifts precisely to the era of the Minoan collapse. The destruction by fire and water, the sudden disappearance of a powerful naval society, the parallels are uncanny. However, the geographic gymnastics required to make Santorini fit the narrative are truly dizzying. Plato explicitly locates Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Straits of Gibraltar, describing the Mediterranean Sea as merely a harbor and the open ocean beyond that as the true sea. To force Santorini into this mold, proponents must argue that the Straits of Heracles actually referred to the headlands of the Gulf of Laconia, and that the true sea meant the entire Mediterranean. This redefinition strains credibility. Shifting a key geographical marker like the Pillars of Hercules is generally considered a move of last resort, confirming that while the event fits, the location does not. The enduring power of the Atlantis myth is its central element, the catastrophic flood that destroys a populated landmass, leaving only a memory. This is not unique to Plato. Virtually every culture has a flood myth. Geological research provides a fascinating regional echo of this theme, the Black Sea Deluge hypothesis. This theory suggests that around 7500 BCE, the rising Mediterranean Sea finally spilled over a rocky sill at the Bosporus, leading to a cataclysmic inflow of seawater into the formerly smaller freshwater Black Sea basin. Imagine a waterfall roaring at full spate for at least 300 days, pouring 50 cubic kilometers, 15 cubic miles of water through the strait daily. This event flooded a staggering 100,000 square kilometers, 39,000 square miles of land, rapidly forcing human populations to abandon fertile coastal areas and migrate. This deluge demonstrates that catastrophic, localized flood events that wiped out vast inhabited areas were a real feature of the post-glacial world. While the Black Sea is nowhere near the Atlantic, the existence of such a sudden civilization-altering flood event shows how stories of profound destruction, the Great Flood, could be carried forward in cultural memory, later repurposed by storytellers like Plato and incorrectly affixed to a powerful political enemy. The memory of catastrophe is true, but its details and coordinates have been corrupted over thousands of years of retelling, like a history lesson whispered down the world's longest telephone wire.
This is the part of the show where we talk about the stuff you see scrolling on TikTok, the places that look exactly like Atlantis, but are, scientifically speaking, just fantastic dirt. If you've spent 5 minutes searching for Atlantis online, you have seen the Richat Structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara or the Eye of Africa. This incredible geological formation in Mauritania is a huge bullseye, about 50 kilometers or 30 miles in diameter, consisting of concentric rings. It is undeniably a stunning visual match for Plato's description of Atlantis' capital city, with its circles of land and water. Some theories even suggest the surrounding land looks like it was affected by a catastrophic tsunami or massive water movement, aligning with the destruction narrative. It looks perfect. It looks like the ultimate architectural blueprint. It looks like the smoking gun we've been waiting for. Unfortunately, it also looks like a very old, very natural rock formation. Geologists agree the Richat Structure is an uplifted geological dome formed by molten rock during the Cretaceous period, making it at least 100 million years old. While originally thought to be an impact crater due to its shape, it lacks the key features associated with impacts. It's a natural process of geological uplift followed by heavy erosion from wind and water. It's essentially a fossilized bubble of ancient rock. Beautiful, but not built by Poseidon's kids in 9600 BCE. It's the most Instagrammable lost city ever, a perfect geological bullseye in the Sahara, except it's older than most dinosaurs. Great visual, scientifically impossible. But hold that thought, stuffers, because this geographical anomaly is coming back in Chapter 5. Our next candidate takes us across the Atlantic to the shallow waters off North Bimini in the Bahamas. This is the realm of Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, who famously predicted that the remains of Atlantis would be found near Bimini. In 1968, a diver found a straight alignment of rectangular to subrectangular limestones in only 18 feet of water, extending approximately 1,600 feet. This became known as the Bimini Road or the Bimini Wall, and proponents claimed the size and alignment were too perfect to be natural, suggesting it was a collapsed road or wall leading to the sunken city. Look, I love a good psychic prophecy as much as the next history geek wearing cargo shorts, but the Bimini Road is, scientifically speaking, just really straight rocks. After detailed examination, marine geologists and archaeologists reached a clear consensus: the road is composed of beach rock, a natural type of marine limestone that forms in coastal environments during periods of high sea level. Researchers found no evidence of two courses of blocks, no concentric supports beneath the stones, and zero evidence of regular or repeated patterns of grooves that could be interpreted as tool marks. Furthermore, the underlying bedrock dates the formation to the last interglacial period, meaning it is significantly older than the 9600 BCE date cited by Plato, and could not have been artificially constructed then. It's the geological equivalent of finding a naturally grown stick shaped exactly like a baseball bat and claiming Babe Ruth was a primordial architect. The Bimini Road is a beautiful alignment, but it remains a natural phenomenon. Drop your wildest non-dangerous theory in the comments. Seriously, give me aliens, lizard people, whatever. Just keep it cleaner than the Bimini Road's geological track record.
Now we return to Plato's impossible date, 9600 BCE. When you remove the fictional details of trireme ships and bronze armor, and just focus on the core mechanism, a catastrophic global flood that wiped a powerful civilization from the face of the earth, the date stops being an anachronism and starts becoming a terrifying coincidence. Plato's timeline coincides exactly with the end of the Younger Dryas period, a 1200-year cold snap that abruptly interrupted the warming trend following the last ice age. As the Younger Dryas ended, roughly 11,600 years ago, a period of accelerated global warming began, marking the start of the Holocene geological epoch. This rapid temperature increase, estimated at 10 to 15 degrees Celsius in some regions, triggered a massive and immediate melting of remaining continental ice sheets in North America. This convergence in timing is critical. If any civilization, advanced or otherwise, existed around 10,000 BCE, it would have been situated on the exposed continental shelves, vast plains that are now underwater, seeking coastal resources and moderate climates. The global climate system was locked into an unstable state, and when it broke, it did so with brutal speed. The result of this abrupt glacial melt was Meltwater Pulse 1b, also known as Catastrophic Rise Event 2. This event caused an immense, rapid influx of water into the world's oceans. Research indicates that during this pulse, sea levels rose by approximately 7.5 meters, about 25 feet, in as little as 160 years. Think about that magnitude. A 25-foot vertical rise in sea level over just a few human generations, combined with the seismic instability inherent in a world adjusting to a rapidly shifting weight distribution, massive ice sheets melting and oceans swelling. This did not just cause a mild inconvenience. This caused the complete permanent erasure of low-lying coastal regions, turning fertile river valleys into deep seabed and forcing humanity to reorganize its entire civilization. This sudden land loss provides the perfect, scientifically verified mechanism for a sunken civilization that doesn't require us to believe in impossible continental plate subsidence or mystical powers. The land didn't sink, the ocean rose, rapidly and devastatingly. Further supporting the idea of ocean-wide disaster in the North Atlantic are events like the Storegga slides. These were 3 colossal submarine landslides that occurred off the coast of Norway around 6200 BCE, collapsing 290 kilometers of the continental shelf. The resulting debris, with a total volume of 3,500 cubic kilometers, triggered a massive Paleotsunami across the North Atlantic. In Scotland, traces of the resulting wave have been found 29 kilometers inland and 4 meters above current high tide levels. While occurring a few millennia after the suggested fall of Atlantis, the Storiega slide proves that during the post-glacial period, natural seismic and geological instability in the Atlantic basin could and did generate massive, civilization-destroying tsunamis capable of wiping out vast coastal settlements, like the famously submerged Doggerland in the North Sea. The fact that Plato's fictional destruction date aligns precisely with the most volatile period of global sea level rise and massive oceanic reorganization strongly suggests that the Egyptian records, or whatever source Solon drew from, preserved an actual, terrifying memory of a global cataclysm, even if the details of the affected civilization were later entirely Hellenized for political gain. The following table summarizes this remarkable chronological convergence: the geological realities versus Plato's timeline.
All right, stuffers, time for the part of the show where I put on my tinfoil hat. But it's a scientifically rigorous tinfoil hat. We have established 3 core facts. First, Atlantis existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Second, it featured a unique concentric ring structure. Third, it was destroyed by a global-scale catastrophic flood event around 9600 BCE. My theory involves reconciling the impossible geography of the Richat Structure with the historical flood mechanism of the Younger Dryas. We must stop searching for a sunken continent, which geologists confirmed does not exist, and start searching for a spectacularly scoured coastal metropolis. Let's re-examine the Richat Structure, the Eye of the Sahara in Mauritania. The key premise: the people of Atlantis were not technologically advanced in the sense of having flying machines or depth rays. That's just allegory, possibly fed by ancient alien myths to explain impossible progress. They were instead profoundly advanced in geography, resource management, and monumental engineering, the kind of knowledge needed to survive the unstable environment of the late Younger Dryas. They chose the Richat Structure as their capital for a simple reason. Its 50-kilometer-wide, naturally resistant quartzite rings provided a perfect, defensible, and pre-engineered blueprint for a city based around concentric waterways and land channels, matching Plato's precise description. In 9600 BCE, the Sahara was much wetter. It was the Green Sahara period, and the structure would have been situated much closer to the Atlantic coast, possibly in a massive coastal delta or an inland sea. This positioning places it geographically around Gibraltar and then Northwest Africa. This theory hinges on Meltwater Pulse 1b. As the continental ice sheets collapsed, the sheer volume of water entering the North Atlantic basin caused not just a vertical sea level rise, but also triggered massive seismic activity and instability along coastal regions, potentially leading to catastrophic coastal landslides and tsunamis, like a megastorega slide event closer to Africa. The destruction. The sudden 7.5 meters sea level rise combined with a colossal tsunami event, perhaps a direct result of the global tectonic readjustment, surged across the North African coastal shelf. This monumental, rapid flood would have overwhelmed the Richat-based city, which relied on the stability of its concentric structure. The city was not swallowed by sinking land, it was scoured clean and abandoned by the overwhelming force of the water. As the global sea level stabilized over the subsequent millennia and the Green Sahara began its desertification process, the former coastline receded. The ocean, which had acted as the executioner, withdrew, leaving the eroded ancient geologic dome exposed deep in the arid interior, where we find it today, looking suspiciously like a perfect sunken city. High plausibility assessment. This theory uses the only three elements that are scientifically robust: Plato's date matched with MWP-1b, Plato's general location, Atlantic adjacent Africa, and Plato's specific architecture, the Richat Structure. It neatly explains away the most challenging aspects: the need for a sinking continent and impossible Bronze Age technology, by proposing that the civilization was wiped out by a proven real-world flood event, leaving behind only the highly durable geologic trace it was built upon. It wasn't a sunken continent, it was just spectacularly, catastrophically flooded and then forgotten by time.
The story of Atlantis survived not because it was true history, but because, as classicists note, it is a marvelously mutable myth. It is a blank canvas onto which humanity projects its deepest fears and highest aspirations regarding technology, power, and ultimate destruction. The myth was permanently imprinted on the popular imagination by 19th century amateur scholars like Ignatius L. Donnelly, whose book Atlantis, the Antediluvian World promoted the idea that the narrative was historical fact rather than allegory. Since then, Atlantis has become a byword for any supposed advanced prehistoric lost civilization. The persistence of the search for a literal Atlantis reflects a profound psychological urge, the need to believe in a forgotten, grand epoch of human history. Whether we are searching for alien remnants to explain impossible technology or debunking straight rocks in the Bahamas, we are really searching for confirmation that our own civilization, for all its current technological supremacy, remains fragile. The idea that all advanced knowledge could vanish overnight due to hubris or a geological hiccup is a universal caution. Ultimately, Plato's tale serves as a moral allegory about the consequences of losing virtue and the danger of imperial expansion. Critias failed to grasp the philosophical truth of the parable because he was too enamored with the story's lineage and potential for glory. He mistook a moral warning for a historical brag. We often make the same mistake. We search for the physical remnants, the gold, the technology, the exact latitude and longitude, when the real lesson is right there in the Critias. The moment a civilization believes its power and wealth make it better than the gods or beyond the reach of natural law is the moment its destruction is sealed. Atlantis didn't just sink, it died of too much ego. That theme of pride leading to downfall is one that spans civilizations, histories, and spiritual traditions. It is a subtle reflection on the necessity of humility and justice, principles that underpin not just political philosophy, but individual conduct. I believe the enduring power of the story, especially for us today, is that it is a reflection of a truth far older than Plato, Solon, or even the Egyptian priests. It is the wisdom inherent in recognizing that no matter how magnificent the city, no matter how powerful the navy, the consequence of arrogance remains the same. And as someone who follows the path of Christian faith, that message hits particularly close to home. Plato wrote a treatise on the perfect government, but the summary is found much more concisely in ancient wisdom. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18.
Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. That, stuffers, is the stuff you can actually take home. Okay, thanks for watching. Peace out. Goodbye, guys.